Hi, this is Nilgün Zahour from SM JUROR, and today we're going to be looking at the juror misconduct issues in the case of Edge versus State, which is out of Georgia. In this case, the defendant was convicted of being a peeping Tom, and we're going to be looking at two issues. First, the presumption of prejudice, and second, the shifting of the burden of proof to rebut that presumption of prejudice. Now, the juror misconduct issue in this case was cell phone use. After trial, it was discovered that some jurors used their cell phones to pull up maps of the properties of the neighborhood. One of the jurors told his wife, who happened to work in the courthouse, and she told the prosecutor, who informed the defense counsel. Defense counsel filed a motion for new trial, which was denied, and the defendant appealed. Now here, the Georgia Appellate Court reversed the denial of the new trial. They found that there was a presumption of prejudice. You have jurors using their cell phones, presumably to access information which was not presented at trial. There was an evidentiary hearing, and 3 jurors were called to testify. The testimony revealed that an unnamed juror used his cell phone to pull up pictures of the property lines and shared it with the other jurors, and then there was some discussion about it in the jury room. The juror who pulled up the information on his cell phone was not called to testify. The 3 jurors who did testify said that this information did not affect their verdicts, but they didn't know if it affected the verdicts of the other jurors. The Georgia Appellate Court said that the use of the cell phones established that there was juror misconduct and a presumption of prejudice or harm to the defendant. Once that was established, the burden of proof shifted to the prosecution to rebut that presumption beyond a reasonable doubt that no harm ensued from the cell phone use. At the hearing, the prosecution called 3 jurors to testify to rebut any presumption of prejudice, but it was unable to do so. First, because the juror who pulled up the information on his cell phone was not called to testify, and there was no evidence whether the cell phone information affected his verdict. Second, there was no evidence whether the cell phone use affected the remaining jurors who were not called to testify. Third, there was no evidence to determine why the cell phone evidence was used. For instance, was it used to weigh against the credibility of testimony that was heard at trial? We don't know. And finally, there was an additional factor. The jury had inquired of the court whether they could render a hung verdict, and there was no evidence about when this cell phone evidence came into play. So, the prosecution did not meet its burden in rebutting the presumption of prejudice from the juror's cell phone use, and as such, the appellate court reversed the trial court's denial of the motion for new trial. This concludes our analysis of the juror misconduct issues in this case. For more information about other juror misconduct cases, our CLE courses, and other updates, please click on the red button. And remember, don't let juror misconduct taint your next verdict. I'm Nilgün Zahour from SM JUROR. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.